Okay. Hello, my friends. The three superstars are back, if I may say so. I wanted tonight to credit the new name of my show. I have a friend visiting me from San Francisco, a very good friend, who has told me this series is going to put Netflix out of business if we don't watch it. So he said, instead of calling it my nightmare, I need to call it Jennyflix and tell Netflix to take a hike. So I'm doing that. Welcome to Jennyflix. We are back this week and we have so much to share with you. There are a few things I wanted to say, and then I was going to hand this over to Mel and Erik. As usual, I make my little nuggets to share with you. And tonight, I wanted to say something that occurred to me that we all need to remember. As long as we are fighting each other, we are not looking at the ones who are setting up the fights. And so we are falling for the distractions. Remember also that the only constant thing in our life is change. Therefore, we need to stop being afraid of change. And a great amount of us are suffering from what my friend told me today, and I quote, we are suffering from malignant brain democracy. You think about that, and you tell me if he's wrong. I see it everywhere. Tonight, I posted something on Facebook, and before I even put it, I knew the reaction I would get. It wasn't even posted 5 seconds, and people came at me. You know, they say fear is the weapon of the weak, but the real power lies in not wielding to fear, because when we fear, we are succumbing to the agenda that has been designed to keep us weak in fear and divided. I would like to leave those thoughts with you to consider. Think about it yourself and see what it means to you. Because what it means to me, this war that Mel, Erik, and I are fighting is the same war, but in the spiritual realm. And we were clearly selected for it. We are doing our best. And tonight we're going to share what we can, and what we cannot share is not because we don't want to, but because we are getting enough attacks coming at us by merely mentioning what we do. So Erik, welcome to Jennyflix.
I'm so happy to be here for the inaugural episode of Jennyflix. And, we should get our copyrights done and make sure we're legal. So when we overthrow Netflix, it'll be all legit.
Awesome, I agree. And Mel, welcome to Jennyflix.
Thank you for having me. What a great time to be here on Jennyflix.
Telling you, it really is, because I've had friends at work tell me it's like their Netflix. So I think Jennyflix is an appropriate name. And thanks to my friend Sergey, who said, why are you calling it a nightmare? It's a Jennyflix series. But putting all jokes and fun aside, there are so many very serious things happening in the world right now that I'm going to let Erik start, and then we'll have Mel come on, because he is like our political journalist. And somehow this show that started out as a spiritual war is becoming political. So Erik, I'll let you take over.
Right. So just kind of like how Mel and I talked the last episode, what happens in the real world is kind of running parallel to the spirit world. So the politics, the temperature of the political atmosphere in the world is kind of matching up with the craziness that's going on in the spirit world. So it just kind of fit when I came in and I was engulfed into the political world side of things. This is what I do. I just research all day. That's probably why I can't keep a wife, is because I just research all day. But when you look at the imbalances in the world, and that's what I probably the best descriptive word that I can use is that the political world is in a massive imbalance, and there's a power struggle going on. There's the haves and the have-nots. There's basically two groups of people, and you have, you know, this, what I, in my research for my book, The Swiss Effect, which is it's ironic that me and Jennylyn have come together, because my book plays right into, and with Mel, with what we're doing in the spiritual world. It's just, you couldn't fit it together any more perfectly, I think. And so that's why that's confirmation for me that I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing. And so, but when we look into,
Eric,
you know, yes.
Can you hold it right there? And for
Yes.
everybody watching, on Thursday night of this week, I will be interviewing Eric about this book. We're going to give you all the nuggets, and then make sure you go get this book. It's an education. All right, Eric. Sorry, I had to say that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I don't know about education, but you'll get to see how I think about things. But when we go into this, I have been able to bring together several kind of pieces to this big giant puzzle that a lot of people at the time didn't understand was even happening. And what it brought me to this, like, darkness. There was just this massive darkness coming out of Europe. And I thought, man, they're like, it's just a giant portal, like almost a portal of negativity that's just sitting over there in the country of Switzerland. And so it was very difficult to really pinpoint things down. It took me an entire year to find all the information I needed to find. And just because that we've changed from one president to another, that agenda has not stopped. What we discovered in my book and in the spirit realm is that just because we've done something that's made this change, it doesn't mean that that fight is going to be over. It's still going to continue on. Just tomorrow morning starts I think it's the 55th annual World Economic Forum, which is highly talked about in my book as one of the culprits of our downfall here. And they're still planning on going with their agenda. And that agenda is not American. It's not, it's an anti-constitution agenda. And as a lot of us know, whether you're on the left or on the right, there's a lot of very strong constitutional Americans in this country that will not give up those rights. And so that is an issue that we go through in this country to decide what is good for us as Americans versus what are people trying to impose upon us. And that's what we have to reject when outside influences come in and try to alter our like founding system of governing, and that give us our rights to the land that we live in. And that's important. And that's why I do what I do, because I love this country and I love the land that I own and I love the freedoms that I have. I love that I can get on this podcast and I can talk about whatever it is that I want to talk about and try to help humanity at the same time. So that's where I think we all need to kind of take a step back and really look at our lives and look at our paths forward and say, well, how can we better humanity? How can we better my neighbor who's a Republican or my neighbor who over here who's a Democrat, and just go back to normal and just be kind to each other. It seems like it's difficult right now in the current climate, but it's really not, because kindness goes everywhere. When you exert kindness, it goes everywhere. I do this every single morning when I go to work. I go to the gas station and I get my 10 monsters I'm going to drink throughout the course of the day. And it's not really 10, but I open the door and hold the door for every single person that is anywhere near me, because I know that that tiny little act of kindness can change the course of someone's day for the better. And it's just little tiny things that we can do that you don't even have to speak to the person. You just hold the door and see their happiness that you did something for them, that maybe no one's doing anything for them in their life and they were looking down upon themselves. This plays out on a much bigger scale. When everybody's thinking on that same level, we can generate a lot of positive energy and kind of will engulf the whatever's left over of the negative energy. So there, that's my opening spiel.
Before I bring Mel on, as Eric was saying, and I'd like to piggyback on what he has said and share this with you. The changing of the puppet will not change the puppeteer. So, guys, my question to you is, why do you hate someone because they do not see your political views? Why do you hate someone because they do not see things the way you see it? Have you ever stopped to think that maybe they know something you don't know? Where do you get the information you get about the people that you want to kill others for? I am here to tell you, they are all wings of the same bird playing a part. Mel, welcome to Jennyflix for the second time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Unlike Eric, of course, the political world in the physical is not my thing. Okay. I spent most of my time in the spiritual realm. And, as Eric mentioned in the beginning, it really is fascinating how what we have come across is in line with some of the things that actually you or that Eric has found and written about. Okay. We have found some very dark people in Switzerland that are actually engaging and have engaged in attacking you. And we've mentioned this last time. Okay. And we never thought in a million years, why Switzerland, right? Now, it isn't just Switzerland. It is also Belgium. And it is also the UK. All right. So we've come across, these are the primary three ones that we've come across. But they're all tied together. And I'm sure Eric in his research has found ties amongst them as well in some shape or form, which is why the British Crown isn't happy about him.
Or me, or Jennylyn. Like, who would ever thought they would know who I am?
Right. But it sort of is important to say this because it's, we've said this before, there's a spiritual battle going on. Everything takes place in the spiritual realm, in the ethereal, before it ever comes into the physical. Okay. And that is exactly what's happening. And not only that, but most people don't realize that these dark people, and this is aside from what happens to you now, Jennylyn. In general, they do this to affect humanity as a whole, okay? They use methods to gain control and manipulate people's minds through dark magic, through ritual. And we have come across such darkness that we can't even speak of on this, on this podcast, in this show. Because it is so dark, it would literally make people turn off the show. All right. And I want people to understand that if you've ever heard through the grapevine somewhere from truthers or from the, so-called community that's out there, conspiracy community that has been talking about this for years, okay, about certain things. Maybe not everything is true, but a lot of it is. It really, really is. And I don't subscribe to anybody's opinion unless I have some sort of evidence myself. And I can say with positivity now that this is indeed happening to a certain extent, because I come across it in the spiritual, and I know these people exist in the physical, and they're doing that. Okay. And as Erik has mentioned before, when we take action in the spiritual, oftentimes we find that something will happen in the physical that reflects something that we may have done. In other words, that these dark people may have taken action or steps towards something that nobody thought that maybe they would, right? It's because we have done something on an ethereal level. And this is difficult to understand for people if you don't really work in that. But it always is. Everything is energy. Everything is always. We are energy. Your table, your desk is energy. So as such, energy can be manipulated. Okay, I've said this before. Everything can be manipulated, and it can be done through energy work. That's what I do, or it can be done through ritual, or it can be done through magic, right? Now, interestingly enough, and I'll put this in there, is that during the past week, we've mentioned that the underworld that we have been visiting so often in the past to, gain some material and contracts that would, eliminate some of the attacks that you've had. That underworld no longer exists the way it was before. It's there, but it's a mess, okay? Because, with the ascension of Lucifer and so on, and another very, very big entity that was down there, things have just changed. There's also other things that have happened. So these people are now resorting to the strangest things, okay? Because they used to work with the demonic entities. And we're primarily speaking of people who are potentially reptilian, half reptilian, or full reptilian. There's a lot of them that are around among those dark ones. Okay, that the reptilian roots go pretty deep. Okay, I have to say this now. But I will say, we visited a place within the past week, and I'm laughing because I thought I was seeing wrong. I was there, and I looked onto the property. I was taking Archangel Michael went with me, and I saw dinosaurs. And I thought to myself, what on earth am I looking at? Is this really a dinosaur? And I thought I wasn't seeing right? And those were the aggressive kind. We're not talking the kind that eat, plants and stuff. All right. So they were protecting the property. And so I actually was kind of really, really excited and happy when Erik went and came in, and he went into the property, and he says, yep, there's definitely dinosaurs here. So, you saw the same thing I saw. Sometimes even we are really struck by the kind of stuff that just we're presented with, because we can't believe it. This is why when we come on here, we're not just coming up with this stuff. Again, the reason why I believe they brought these dinosaurs in to protect their property is because the underworld and the demonic entities no longer are listening, and there's no access to them, right? There's no leadership. The hierarchy in the underworld no longer exists, and therefore they're reaching out to that kind of thing. But it's just funny when you look at it. And we've come across a couple other things that were just insane. You look at it and you're like, wait a minute. It really, really makes you, even for someone like us, okay, Erik and myself, we look at this and we've seen quite some stuff. And I even look at it and like, oh, wow, that's a new one. When you can say that's a new one, then well, Erik, maybe you took the whole dinosaur thing to a whole nother level. Do you want to tell your story about what you did with the dinosaur?
So the whole thing was I was trying to sneak up to this building, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I was like, you know what? Let's write a dinosaur. Because they were out there scanning, like it was like their security field. And so I was like, you know what? I'll just get on a dinosaur. They'll never pay attention to the dinosaur running around out there. So that's what I did. I wrote the dinosaur all the way up to the building, and it worked.
So I produce so many television shows, and the amount of interference we get on these videos that any of you watching think we're a bag of nuts. The evidence is always right before your face. But what I'm learning about people, and I see it a lot from the Facebook police, because that's what I call those people, are always ready to suck it to you if your opinion is different to theirs, is that, a lot of what we believe because we're wearing blinders. So that even if the truth is poking us in the nose, we will not see it. Because what I'm learning is we believe what we want to believe. And I get that from birth, we are programmed by the education system. We're programmed by those who have been programmed by the same system, and those who program them, and it's a cycle. And yet, I think I was truly born for this role because from childhood, I've been questioning, and nobody could answer my questions. And so now I understand why most people were oblivious, but I was questioning. So without a doubt, I know I was born to do this. Erik, over to you. I know you were going to say something, but I wanted to interject with that because it popped into my head.
Right. And even though writing dinosaurs is extremely fun, this week hasn't been, just roses and trophies. We've as a group, we have all struggled this week. And things don't always make sense at the time we want them to make sense. They'll make sense at the time when we need them to make sense. And so that's something that we've all struggled with. Some of the preconceived notions that we had thought previously weren't exactly how they turned out, or exactly where we're going with certain directions. And I think each one of us has had that struggle this week, to where we're like, where is this going? Why is this happening at this moment? And why does it not seem right? Like, so we've had this struggle this week, to where not everything has turned out to be a great success. We've had some setbacks this week, and that's fine. And it's allowed us to get together and talk it out, and to see what can we do, what will we do, and how do we move past it. So it really has been, a lot of a team effort this week to try to, put our heads together. And Mel can probably speak a lot more on that than I can. Over to you, Mel.
Well, one of the things, of course, the big question this week, and I'll take it a step further, and you mentioned it already, Erik, is that why are we still doing this? Is this going to end? Where's this going? Okay, where is this going? Okay, big question for all of us, right? Not just for you, Jennylyn, but for Erik and myself as well. All right, and the crazy thing about this is that as much as I'm connected, there are some things that just I'm not being told. And there's a reason for why I'm not being told these things. Okay. And probably my spirit team knows me best, because they know I would probably get angry or get, be stubborn about it. And that's true. But to be perfectly honest, I was glad that you asked that same question, Erik, this week, and you got some answers. And I was triggered by those answers. They weren't because what you said, but because you were just the messenger. Okay, so it was sort of like, and my spirit team knew that the answer, or the that you received, would trigger me, and that sort of brought me into a whole nother spin tail of something else. It just began. It allowed me to transform something that I needed to transform. Let's put it that way. So even though there were struggles, there's always a new beginning, right? There's always something else. So I do want to point that out. And it's taking us even further now. Okay. I mean, we've mentioned things in Switzerland. And when we say these setbacks, we have seen some very, very dark things this week. Okay. I have seen some very dark, and I know you do too. But at one point, it was so dark that I almost, it really took my breath away. Okay. It made my spirit crumble. And I couldn't believe the depravity, the depravity of humanity, because those who did this were not reptilian. I can even make an excuse for someone who's not human, right? That I'm not familiar with and what it is. But a bunch of humans, that was really, really difficult. So yes, we do have those moments, and it's not all, unicorn and flowers and fun, but we like to make it. We always make a point that we laugh, right? We always, and Eric's very good at this. He's a jokester. He jokes all the time. And it's really important that we keep it that way. We're not making light of the situation by any means. And even Jennylyn knows this, right? We're just trying to sort of bring a little humor into this otherwise really dark stuff that we're dealing with. And which makes this whole little group also really a nice group, because Jennylyn knows how to laugh. She could be in pain or just have experienced something that is really terrible. And here comes Erik with some, one of his little jokes, and starts laughing, through the chest. So I really, really like that. But yes, I don't know what else we could potentially speak on, specifically, that we have done. But the most of the things that we have encountered this week, at least a lot of what I have encountered with regard to that, involves the sacrifice of little ones. Okay. And I don't need to, elaborate what little ones are.
Mel, could you hold that thought? Don't forget what you're saying. While Mel is saying this, today I was told I should share this with you. You know, if you've been following this series, that we have set a lot of souls free, that the Dutch man had somehow been channeling these souls through me, and I have posted videos of the souls going up for you to see. While Mel was speaking about little ones being sacrificed, I want you to know one night in the middle of one of the biggest attacks, where Mel and Erik could not really untangle it easily because the person who had done it was from Belgium, and I think along with someone from Switzerland, had somehow managed to weave a web in my system. And the middle of it was a ball that had wires, and it was shoved into my chest. And so while they were trying to clear it, a little child, the soul of a little child came and started to help Mel and Erik. And I get very emotional. I will let Mel complete this story.
Yes, it was actually after Erik and I set free a lot of the souls that were kept in Bohemian Grove. And we've said this before, okay? So this is not, we said this the last time. Erik and I were responsible for setting free a lot of the souls that were kept in Bohemian Grove in California. And it was after that when I was trying to work on you, all of a sudden it was a little girl. Okay, she must have been 5, 6 years old. She wasn't very old at all. It was on the younger side. All of a sudden I see her pulling the chain from your chest. And I'm thinking, oh, what's this little girl? I didn't expect to see a little girl, but she wasn't someone who was posing a threat. I could tell that she wasn't, a threat at all. She was trying to help. So I allowed her to do it. And she literally, when she pulled the ball from your chest, she fell backwards, because it was, it was just like, with such force that her little body just fell backwards. And then she stood back up, and I was like, wow, I can't believe this. She actually did. And it was almost as if, I don't know who she was, but her soul must have definitely been a strong little soul, right? For her to step forward and do that. I mean, I didn't ask anyone. I was working, trying to figure this out. And I want your audience also to understand, when we talk about this, is that whenever they put somebody new into this, we kind of have to figure out, especially when I do when it's magic, I have to go in and have to figure out where the magic goes and what the magic does. Erik is kind of like just going in and removing it. We have our different ways. If I try to trace magic somewhere or the magical threads, I actually have to go and figure out what the style of this new person is, right? We had to, and maybe we can talk about, while we're at it, this one occasion this week where we had a witch that was from nature that Erik dealt with. That's maybe something that we can talk about, right? It's just to give an example to your audience what it is we mean. Normally we have people who have used, darker entities from the underworld, and now, they're using ritualistic measures such as sacrifice to reinforce their magic, through blood magic, through soul, involving soul sacrifices, and bringing in even ancient gods in order to take their power, use their power to do things. Okay, that's a whole nother story. But the one time that you really were affected, we stumbled upon a different version, which actually threw us all off a little bit. It threw me off. And this particular witch was a natural witch, and it turned out to be someone who works with Gaia, with Mother Earth. All right. And maybe Erik can take it from there, because I tried to assist you, and I did some stuff, but it was kept going back, and we needed to go to the source, and I couldn't get there. I somehow didn't manage to get there, but Erik did. So you want to take it from there, Erik, and tell the audience what you found or what it was?
Yeah, so we've done so much that I can't remember where we're at on this one.
Palms, somewhere in the desert in California, they took us.
Right. Yeah, because they told me to go to the desert. And so that's where I went. It was right before. I couldn't tell what city it was where the desert was right before, if it was Los Angeles or San Diego or whatever, but I'm guessing it was Los Angeles.
I just heard someone.
Yeah, I did too. So we went out there, and but I don't know why I can't remember this.
That's okay, Erik. If you don't remember, then maybe we're not supposed to tell. But basically, this was a one-time thing, and you destroyed it because Mel had disrupted hell, is what we realized.
Right.
And she helped both Lucifer and Moloch to cross. And so hell has broken loose, just like the saying. And so they turned to whatever witches they knew in the earth to do their magic.
Yes, it was
And
an
this,
element.
right.
Oh,
And
yes,
this-
yes. I do remember now.
And this person had woven all sorts of webs and threads, and Mel kept pulling and pulling. Now, before Erik continues, I want to say one thing. We have different gifts. Me, I get the messages very clearly, and I tell the group the message. Mel can do some. I think she can see and also untangle and track the magic. Erik is the demolition derby. He comes in his little angelic cape form and his sword, and he takes down the bad guys, and he does it amazingly. And so Mel and I were trying to do what we could do, and Erik was busy. He was doing his TV show. And I kept saying, God, Mel, I wish Erik was free to tell us where we need to go, what we need to do. I was in intense pain. And to tell you the truth, I couldn't breathe. And I was panicked. And I know Mel was panicked too, because I kept saying, my throat is closing. I'm having trouble breathing. And then out of the blues, Erik showed up. And he got on the phone with us, and he goes, I'm being taken to the desert. And next thing we know, the demolition derby went to work. He started chopping stuff up. And all of a sudden, I started breathing. But Erik, see what you remember now that I've triggered this for you.
Yeah. I come in from a very like wide angle, because I usually fly because I have wings. So it sounds so ridiculous when I say it. I was flying, and I saw this thing in the desert. And I decided, well, I should probably go kill that thing. No, but what I don't really have a lot of experience with elementals, so I wasn't sure what I was looking at. It almost seemed like from a distance, I was like, oh, that's a human. But then as I got closer, I realized that this was not human. And then I had said, I just kind of started describing it. And that's when Mel was like, oh, it's an elemental. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna defeat this thing because I don't know anything about it. It's not like the reptilians where I pretty much I've fought enough reptilians. I know what to do. Or like the grays or some of the more common entities that we've come across. But the elemental was a little bit different. And I feel like there's a lot of different types of them as well. And I don't know that for sure. Mel will be able to tell you, but I feel like there's a lot of different types of them. So each one's going to have their own unique way of doing things, because they are from Gaia. So what it was this was like an elemental, like kind of witch, I think. And it had basically tricked Gaia into giving them permission or giving this elemental permission to attack Jennylyn. So I had gone back after I dealt with the elemental, which was very, very harshly. I went back and I was with Odin at the time, and Odin went with me, and we went to Gaia, and we said, "Look, you need to pick a side because the side that you're making deals with isn't it's not going to work. This is going to cause a problem, and we're not going to come back here and ask you next time." And that is when I think Gaia had realized, like, I can't just I just can't be in the middle anymore, because she was trying to play, Gaia was trying to be neutral, and the neutrality wasn't, it's not going to work in this battle. You're going to have to pick a side. There's no neutral. This is way too big to just be Switzerland in World War II. So she had made that decision, and she said that she will stay in the light. And then that pretty much ended that. And we haven't really had any issues out of, with Gaia doing anything she's not supposed to be doing since then. Not saying that she's bad. Gaia's very pure hearted. However, I don't think she's trying to disrupt any of her balances in her world. I don't know enough about Gaia to really speak too much on her. I just know that I did not get any like really like devious energy when I was in Gaia's presence. It was very compassionate. So I don't really have any like real issues with Gaia. I just know that she made one wrong decision, and we had to let her know that, hey, this is not the decision that you want to be making.
So, guys, you hear us every week. And the one thing I know you know is that my vessel is attacked almost 24/7. Only God knows how I keep going, because these attacks, I am not kidding you, I am not exaggerating. Erik and Mel know, because they remove what has been done to my vessel. But I want those watching to know you will never break me. You can never touch my soul. And you will not take me or Erik or Mel, because we are divinely protected. And you may think you're getting away with stuff. That's because they know we are equipped to handle it. But you push the envelope and you will find out who holds the power. That's my message to you. And you can go ahead and bump and do whatever you think you need to do to me. You're never going to break my spirit. I have a strong army behind me. Besides the two humans on this camera, I've got millions of angels watching out for three of us. Don't forget that. And you may think you sit in high places in countries living big. All right, we'll see how this story ends. Mel, I don't know what you have to add. we're almost out of time, but I want to make sure before we go that you and Eric leave anything that your guides or Archangel Michael wants you to share before we wrap.
Okay, well, yes, we always figure everything out eventually. We may not get to the bottom of everything right away. Perfect example is that I came across a couple of things from Dutchman this week still. Dutchman, by the way, he's no longer operational. He's kind of like a parked car in the garage, is what I say. Okay. But we're talking about some of the magic he has woven during his operational time, and some of which we have been stumped by. And the only reason we've been stumped by this, or that I have been stumped by this, because I trace the magical things, is because he layered them. Okay, for one thing to happen, he has it, hidden in many different places. So you can, maybe get to one, but unless you completely eliminate and neutralize all the other parts, you're still going to get the same. You're not going to fully eliminate it. So that is what was the holdup. Okay. So one of the things I want to say is that, this just goes to show how elaborate these people really are in their magic when they're operational and not parked in the garage. Mind I say that? Okay. And I want to say this because he has really given me the runaround. He has, but you know what? He has also showed me so much. So I know he's probably watching this. He has showed me so much and taught me so much through having to find his magic that I would not have been able to do some of the stuff I do now if it wasn't for him. So thank you, Dutchman, on that behalf. Otherwise, so anyhow, so I actually went and a couple times into the earth. He has put the stuff in the center of the earth. It's like bugs. He likes to work with animals. Remember, he likes the zoo. Well, this isn't really a zoo. They look like bugs, like cockroaches or something, like overgrown cockroaches, if you so will. And they keep biting you. And we've been trying to figure out there was a nest and a connection that was in the underworld. Now that the underworld was gone, they were done for a while and they came back. Then it was in the earth. I found in the earth. And here's the thing, not just in the earth, but he connected that particular part with another person that and you. Okay. So not only did he put it in there, but I had to find the connection to the other person to eliminate that. And it was very, very fascinating that the moment we did that, it all stopped, right? You had nothing until it took a couple days or another day or so until you started feeling something again. So I thought, oh, well, we have to go in another layer. So this is kind of what we're talking here. And so and the universe always shows me everything that I need to know at any given time. So, because your audience might think, well, how come you didn't see this before? Well, I'm only being shown what it is I need to see at any given time. So I asked for the answer to this, but I wasn't shown this. And clearly there is something there because you feel a physical change when I do these things and when Eric does this stuff. Okay, so in this particular case, this one was in the earth again, but not all the way deep in the inner earth. It was somewhere in the earth, but in some sort of rock formation inside the earth. And as I go in there, I pull out your picture. So an ethereal form, your picture. And so these little critter things had your picture. And this time they were also tied to someone else that you know very closely. Not the same as before, but another person that was tied to it. So you see, and this is why some of the things he was so very, very arrogant to you when he said that you will never ever change that, right? You remember you told us this, that he said that
it will never stop.
It's because he thought we couldn't find all of his magical things in the earth connected to other people. He put things in deceased people's coffins. Okay, I've taken stuff out of 2 or 3 coffins, and all sorts of things. And there's one other thing. We have almost, the layers are almost finished. I get the sense that we almost got it. Then there was another, the woman who has with the black skin, to be perfectly politically correct. She was involved too. I found something of hers that also has to do with those little bugs or critters. So I went after that. So you see, it's all a matter of time. Okay. But he he does not. It is going to go away because every single time we find something, there's less and less activity. Okay. There's less and less. So, but that just goes to show how incredibly um
Hold that thought. Ladies and gentlemen, that just goes to show hell has no fury as a half reptilian scorned. Bottom line. Okay, Mel, you can continue.
oh, geez. Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, and I couldn't even find the right word. It just goes to show just how incredibly um effective magic can be, okay, if you really know what you're doing. And I've said this here before, Dutchman knew what he was doing, okay, just like Nathan knew what he was doing. And but here's the funny thing, we have encountered other witches throughout this week in different places of the world. These witches don't come close. These witches do not come close to those two. So guess what? Dutchman, again, thank you, Dutchman, for allowing me to be challenged with your magic. Okay. And I'm going to say this here because that allowed me to go and deal with Nathan, and that allows me to deal with some of the other ones. Okay. So there you go. This is what I will leave it as. I just feel very bold in saying this because it's true. It is true. If it wasn't for him and his skills, which again, he's parked in the garage now. Okay. I may not have been able to do all that because I'm not a witch. Okay. I was learning throughout this process myself. So yes, grateful for that.
So one thing we want to add to that, Nathan was full reptilian, Dutchman is half reptilian, but the other witch, the Chinese woman, has also been parked in the garage, but she is still hiring people to do magic. So we need to take care of that, right, Eric?
So that's very correct. Even though we defeat some of these entities, they still find ways to be effective. But with that in my closing, for those of you who have like checked out my podcast, The Expendable Show, I've had people ask me, why do you call it that? And it's because in my life and in the battles that I've had to endure in my life, that I am prepared to be expendable for the greater good. And this, what we go through in our spiritual battle here, it will fit that narrative now, which is why I go in as fierce as I can when I deal with some of these entities, because I don't want them to keep attacking Jennylyn, and I don't want them to attack Mel. So I do everything within my power to neutralize situations to prevent things in the future. And that's not even to count that we don't specifically know exactly how many other people across the world that these entities are affecting. We just know in our little tribe here what is going on. So if I have to continue to be expendable for for people to have relief, then I'm prepared to do that.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Mel. My two hands, the right and the left. As we wrap, I'd like to leave you to ponder what I'm going to say now. Why do we hate each other? Why do we call each other the left and the right? When are we going to wake up and see that the people we have on pedestals that are creating this divide, fear, and hatred amongst us are people who are united behind the scenes, and to put it in plain French, could give a rat's ass about all of you hating and killing each other. And instead of uniting for the good of each other, you are divided and fighting over people who probably don't even know who you are. I would just like to ask everyone watching this interview, it's okay to believe in the philosophies of the right, and it's okay to believe in the philosophies of the left, But why have a right and a left? Why not learn to respect other people's beliefs? And even though you may not be able to identify with it, no, it's their prerogative to believe what they believe, but let's get along. Because whether you want to believe it or not, whether you sit on the left or the right, unless we unite, we will never be able to win the battle we are in that half of you can't see. We see and we know. So I'd like you to take what we are sharing, crazy as it may seem, as a credible source of information, because it is. And we live it. And there is a reason why your pituitary gland has been deliberately closed and you are not privy to what we know, because you all have the abilities we have, maybe in different ways. So if you would allow yourself, you will start seeing what we see, things will become clearer, and you could start loving each other for who you are. And we will be back soon. Thank you for keeping up with us. I know it sounds like it's out there, but all of it is true. And we'll be back next week. Look for Erik on Thursday. This is going to be a hot one. Bye. Bye, everyone.